Enforcement connections of 3 family members charged with torturing their 3 adopted daughters. One of those girls, 11-year-old Arabella McCormack, died at their Spring Valley home in August, allegedly from neglect and abuse. CBS 8's David Goffredson reports all 3 of the defendants previously volunteered with the San Diego Police Department.
Law enforcement was part of the fabric of the McCormack family when they were foster parents in 2017 and later when they adopted 3 little girls in 2019. The adoptive father, Brian McCormack, was an award-winning Border Patrol agent. The adoptive mother, Letitia McCormack, volunteered with the San Diego Police Department as a crisis interventionist. Her parents, Adela and Stanley Tom, worked with SDPD's retired senior volunteer patrol, as seen in this photo from a few years back. But on August 30th, it all came crashing down after a 911 call from the family's home in Spring Valley reporting a young girl choking.
Family Gallons reporting medics to be determined choking, 3375 Lakeview Drive.
11-year-old Arabella McCormack died after being transported to the hospital. Later that same day, the Border Patrol agent Brian McCormack committed suicide inside his pickup truck as he came home to find deputies surrounding his house. Now, the 3 former SDPD volunteers are behind bars, charged with torture and child abuse of all 3 girls. Letitia McCormack and her father, 75-year-old Stanley Tom, are both charged with murder in the death of Arabella. They all face life in prison if convicted.
I want to address a very sad situation that was in the news this week, that one of our former volunteers was arrested for the death of her adopted daughter.
Letitia McCormack also volunteered as a ministry leadership coordinator at San Diego's Rock Church. Over the weekend, Pastor Miles McPherson told the congregation the Rock Church had no indication of criminal wrongdoing.
She was a volunteer for law enforcement, was background checked by law enforcement, background checked by Child Protective Services because she was a foster mother and then adopted parent, her and her husband. And then obviously we did a background check after all that, and nothing revealed that anything like this could happen.
Now, attorneys representing those 3 defendants had no comment for this report, and it's important to note that these defendants apparently had no criminal history, so there would be no reason to red flag them from volunteering for the police department. A San Diego police lieutenant told me he had no information to share about exactly how long they volunteered with the department.
David, the story is confounding, it's frustrating, it's upsetting. We know all 3 accused here are being held now without bail. What else is going on with their criminal case?
Well, as you say, yes, they're held without bail now, but they have a hearing coming up for bail review on November 29th. And during that hearing, their attorneys will argue that there should be bail set, and we should learn more details about the case during those arguments.
Hey, my kings and queens, welcome back to the San Diego Dark Crime Channel. For those of you guys that is not following us on Spotify, Anchor, or anywhere a podcast is streaming, please make sure you go do that at SD Dark Crime Channel, so that way you can get more extreme content on these cases, updates that you may not be able to see on these videos. Now, today's case that we are featuring is coming out of Spring Valley, California. Now, for those of you guys that don't know where Spring Valley is a small community that is located in San Diego, and it's about 10 to 15 minutes from San Diego itself. Now, the case that we're featuring today is this beautiful princess that you see on your screen, and this was 11-year-old Arabella McCormack, who was found on August 30th, 2022, unresponsive at her Spring Valley home. Now, 911 dispatchers would receive a call on August 30th, 2022, around 2 a.m. in the morning about a child being in distress on the 3300 block of Lakeview Drive in Spring Valley, California. Now, upon arriving, rescuers will come across the fragile body of 11-year-old Arabella McCormack, who appeared to be severely malnourished. She was covered in bruises from head to toe, underweight, and unresponsive. Rescuers would then rush 11-year-old Arabella to a nearby hospital to seek medical treatment, but just hours after her arrival, she would slowly succumb to her injuries and tragically pass away. Now, before I begin this story or this tragic case on little 11-year-old Arabella McCormick, I did want to put out that sensitive disclaimer to some of my sensitive viewers that the case you're about to hear contains actual graphic and disturbing details of true events of child abuse, torture, and the demise of little 11-year-old Arabella, along with the torture and abuse of her two surviving siblings. So please listen at your own discretion is advised. Arabella and her two younger siblings would first enter the San Diego CPS system back in 2016 due to their biological parents, Toriana Flory and Chelsea Zambrano's constant domestic violence that would occur in the home and in front of Arabella and her two younger siblings. By 2017, Arabella and her two younger siblings would be placed in the care of Brian and Letitia McCormick. Brian was a U.S. Border Patrol agent who worked out of San Diego County and served San Diego for about 19 and a half years in customs. His wife, Letitia McCormick, she was a 49-year-old volunteer ordained elder at the Rock San Diego Church. And in addition to Brian and Letitia McCormick, Letitia's elder parents, Stanley and Adela Tom, they also had some type of background in law enforcement for the Senior Citizens Division. It was then the biological mother of Arabella and her two younger siblings, Toriana Flory, would start seeing a significant change within all three girls once they were placed with the McCormicks. She would notice new bruises, marks, and different wounds. She also noticed that her children were very unkempt, very underweight. Their teeth were falling out of their mouths. Their hair was very brittle. And the eldest, which is Arabella, who was normally a calm, bubbly, sweet, energetic child, she became very withdrawn, depressed, very quiet, and timid. So she would get in contact with the San Diego County CPS system and voice her concerns towards them. And she stated that her cries went completely ignored. So she would also reach out to the popular church that Letitia McCormick was volunteering at. She would also take her concerns there, but once again, she was ignored. The sad part about it was there were quite a few church members that I read in some of these reports who also had the same concerns for these girls like their biological mother, Toriana Flory, did, but I don't know why no one ever came forward. I don't know why that a report wasn't made. No one ever came out to interview the children or even try to interview the McCormicks. By 2019, Arabella and her two siblings would be adopted by the McCormicks, and I don't know the whole reunification process on where it failed, so I don't know why their biological mother and father, Toriana or Chelsea, lost their parental rights, but all three children would be adopted by the McCormicks in 2019. And this is when the abuse really began to pick up. Arabella and her two younger siblings would be subjected to severe abuse conditions. They will be confined in their rooms. They will be deprived of water and food and bathroom privileges. They would have to participate in these extreme, rigorous exercises. They were kicked, punched, hit with paddles and sticks. The children's teeth were falling out. They were also very severely malnourished, underweight, unkempt. In addition to being abused by their adoptive parents, Brian and Letitia McCormick, Letitia's elder parents, Stanley and Adela Tom, would also participate in abusing all three girls. The San Diego Sheriff Department would reach out to the adoptive father, Brian McCormick, about little Arabella's injuries. And before that they can actually speak to him regarding her injuries, Brian McCormick would get off from a long shift with the Border Patrol. He will head home and into his driveway. He will be greeted by several deputies from San Diego County, only to turn the gun on himself and take his life. On Monday, November 7th of 2022, Letitia McCormick, along with her two elderly parents, Stanley and Adela Tom, would be arrested on 3 counts of willful cruelty to a child, 3 counts of child abuse and torture, and 1 count of murder. Adela Tom would only receive 3 counts of willful cruelty to a child, 3 counts of child abuse, and 3 counts of torture. She would not be charged with the murder of Arabella. In November of 2022, all 3 defendants would appear at a bail hearing to determine their bail's eligibility. Letitia McCormick and her father, Stanley Tom, they would continue to receive a no bail status, while her 70-year-old mother, Adela Tom, she would have a status of no bail to $100,000 bail. Her defense team claimed that Adela Tom was too fragile to await trial in jail. They felt that the best solution for her was to remain with family on an ankle monitor due to her fragile state. In my opinion, Adela Tom should not have that option to bail out. She should also be charged with murder just as much as her co-defendants. I honestly feel like that they're trying to, or should I say her defense team is trying to paint this woman out to be this poor, defenseless, elderly woman with all of these sickly illnesses and conditions. Now, I'm not saying that her health is probably not declining. Obviously, it may be because she is a little older. But what I'm stating is they're trying to use that as an excuse to basically get her off for murder. And it's not fair because at the end of the day, we should not be so accommodating to someone who could have saved the lives of all 3 of these girls, but yet and still, she participated in abusing and torturing these poor babies. She also deprived them of food and water. So she is not this innocent elderly lady who didn't know what was going on. She was well aware of what was going on because she was a participant. But yet and still, she did nothing to help these girls. Let me remind you, my kings and queens, that Arabella only weighed 48 pounds at the time of her demise. She was so small that her bones protruded out of her skin. She had 15 healing fractures. 10 of them were new. She was punched in the face by Stanley Tom, who should have been her adoptive grandfather. During her autopsy, her body was so severely malnourished that her body didn't even produce puberty when it should have. These monsters sent this beautiful baby girl and her siblings to bed hungry. They sent her to bed with 15 fractures. They sent her to bed without water. They punched, they kicked, they hit her. And not only what little Arabella had to endure, just imagine what her 2 surviving siblings also had to endure because of these monsters. Letitia McCormick, along with her parents, Stanley and Adela Tom, they are still currently incarcerated awaiting trial for next month of August 2023. Even though that Adela Tom does have that bail option, I checked her current status and she is still incarcerated at the Las Colinas County Jail, along with her daughter, Letitia McCormick. Her husband, Stanley Tom, is currently incarcerated at the Vista Facility for Men in Vista, California. Upon their rescuing, the biological siblings of Arabella was placed into the hospital for around 3 weeks, and they were treated for malnourishment, and then they were released into another foster care home. And to this day, their biological mother, Toriana Flory, is trying to regain custody and take her children out of the foster care system in general. She currently has a $10 million lawsuit against San Diego County. She currently has a GoFundMe so that way she could retrieve little Arabella's ashes, along with a lawyer so that way she can regain custody of her 2 surviving daughters. So if you would like to donate to Arabella's GoFundMe, I would attach that to the end of this video. Don't forget to check back for more updates on this case and the trial of little Arabella McCormack. So let me know how you feel about this case, and how do you feel about Adela Tom being able to have the option to bail out due to the severity of this crime? Don't forget to pray for little Arabella's family and her surviving siblings, her mother and her father. And please pray for her justice, because it's justice for Arabella all day. Also, don't forget to check out her GoFundMe. Her mother is in the process of trying to get a lawyer because she does have a $10 million lawsuit against the San Diego County CPS system. So if you want to support her, please check out Arabella's GoFundMe page. Until next time, please love each other, pray for each other, and just be nice to each other. Rest in peace to little Arabella. We pray that justice will be served. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and to share for more of these cases. Thanks for watching.